this for CWAS?
Well, no, I wanted to do something different. I'm recording, but I want to do, I mean, this is for Still with a Smile, but basically this is like two men, two teachers, two fathers, trying to make things, happen for each other, well, for themselves, for their family, you know. So my name's Juan. I got the podcast. My good buddy here, Mr. Clarke, he's got an amazing story as well. And you can explain it if you want to. I don't want to get into that, but we've both been teaching at the same school for what, 7 years, right? That's kind of what we figured.
Yeah, I've been there 6 years.
Right. And then we worked together on a project for our seniors like a few weeks ago, where we were able to kind of like send them off with a little bit of self-awareness and a little bit of just kind of like washing the slate clean in the past so they can graduate into a brighter future, which is kind of ironic given the circumstances, because I mean, it was needed at the same time, but at the same time, it was kind of like, we I don't think we knew we were prepared for what's happening, like, at all.
Not at all.
I mean, do you feel let down? Do you feel like, man, why didn't anybody get us? I mean,
yeah, let down by, I don't know, the government or humanity. Yes. Yeah, I feel let down and unprepared.
I mean, I feel that way. I totally feel that way. I feel like we were not told, we were not given enough time, we were not given enough information. Yeah. I mean, it's like we picked up on this, you know what I mean? Like, we knew stuff was happening, we knew something was going on, but then all of a sudden it's like, okay, boom, now we got to go ahead and, change the educational system as we know it, and you got a week to do it.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I read a post today, and I shared it on Facebook too, and it was like, just the idea that, like, teachers across like the nation, in like within a matter of days, have taken this shit in stride.
Number one, right,
and been able to turn it around into something that we think, we hope, and we believe is going to be useful for kids, right? So, like, in the face of like literally a pandemic, right? Like an epidemic, or I don't know the difference, but with the tools we have, with the time we have, managing the families that we have, we've been able to throw together, like, I think a really, really good plan. And we're ready for it. Like, I miss my kids. I'm ready to start, right? And I know it's going to be messy, and I know that for my part, and I think for your part too, and for a lot of us, I mean, our plan is laid on a foundation of grace, right? Knowing that there's not just that there's not a precedent for this, just that we have no grid for this. And so, and I honestly think that there's probably no other industry that could do what teachers are doing in preparation for this, so, I mean, it's like, and it covers both like the individual and the collective sense of urgency and need that we know our kids are going to have, and that we have as well. And like, I mean, I've really been enjoying the posts, and like the screenshots of tweets from people who are trying to homeschool their kids.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, just the idea. I mean, I'm really proud to be a teacher. Like I'm super proud that I get to do what I do, and I think like across the board, I'm seeing that from other people as well, and it's really, I don't know, it's just like a really human moment where we look at the light at the end of the tunnel is a train, right? And it's like bearing down on us. And in the face of that, like we're building a way to stop the train.
Wow.
And we're doing it, not because we need to, but we're doing it because the students need us to, right? And it's a different, I'm not trying to save myself from anything. I mean, I'm washing my hands, and stuff like that. But like, I'm not,
Right.
but like what we're doing for, like, to give our kids, like, I don't know. I feel like teachers right now are like storming the gates of hell with buckets of water. Like I think that's like literally what we're all doing. We're just like, we're spitting into buckets if we don't have a faucet, or just like we're going to, I don't know. I think that there's going to be some amazing things that come out of this time, and some realizations that we'll have that nothing else could teach us, and I don't know, you learn the most from failure and adversity. And I think we're faced right now with, we're going to be learning a lot if that's the case.
I hope so though, right? I mean, don't you kind of hope that we all are better for this? I mean,
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Because I almost feel like we're kind of rushing to provide an answer. You know what I mean? Like everybody's rushing to like kind of get to like a specific point, but the thing is we don't really know where we need to go. There are so many people. I feel like there's a lot of teachers that are stressed out. They're like, well, I gotta get this done, I gotta get this lesson plan, I gotta get this, and it's like, dude, talk to your kids, number one. Like this is day one, you know what I mean? Like for us specifically tomorrow, like tomorrow is day one. Like this has to be from scratch, day one. Hi, my name is Mr. Campos. Hi, my name is Mr. Clarke. like let's get to know each other again, in this new dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, who was it? Was it like, I don't know, I'm probably going to butcher this and people will hate me because I'm an English teacher, but I think it's like Kurt Vonnegut that's like, I mean, the best way to be creative is to jump off a cliff and build your wings on the way down. And I feel like that's what we're doing. I feel like teachers are just kind of used to doing that. Like, I think I mean, I honestly think that one of the greatest skills that people can have is the ability to be flexible. And I don't think that there is probably any career or industry that requires people to be on their toes as much as teachers.
Absolutely.
I mean, we make literally thousands of decisions a day, and some of those can impact the entire trajectory of a kid's life.
Absolutely.
And we do those, like, we make those dozens of times a day, right? And it's a huge responsibility, to do it well. And there's always the potential for things to go wrong and for things to not work. And like I said about this, I mean, the ability to give yourself grace and to give students grace in times like this is in my opinion, it's like absolutely the most important thing we could do.
100%.
I mean, because there's so little, like stuff like this really teaches us, or really kind of brings back to the forefront of our minds just the reality that we prefer to ignore, that we, for all the stuff that we do, we have so little control. Right? And so,
right.
you know, I had a friend of mine who works at UTD, and she's a therapist, she's a counselor, she's a professor. I mean, she wears all these different hats. And she, you know, posted some, I think it was maybe today or whatever, but you know, just getting emails and seeing things from people. And I think my wife even had someone from the district that our kids go to be like, you know, the expectations for students in our district are gonna remain high. And it's like, what? Right? We're gonna teach you grit. You know, like we're gonna use this pandemic to teach you how to survive, you know, and be successful in spite of adversity.
No, man. It's
nuts. It's easy to me to think that there are people in charge of our kids' education and entire districts that are taking the stance that like it's going to be business as normal but online. I put a survey in Google Classroom the other day just because I wanted to know. I wanted to check on my kids, wanted to know how they're doing. I wanted to know what a typical day looked like for them, and if they wanted to share with me, you know, what are some responsibilities that you have now that you didn't before spring break, right? And dude, it was like incredibly sobering what my kids, what your kids, what our kids are dealing with.
oh, yeah.
And you know, for some of them that are more vocal and more comfortable and, you know, more confident, you know, we knew that, you know, because they'd
Right.
shared it with us and been like, hey, you know, here's what I'm dealing with at home, here's how it's going to impact my ability to do that project, stuff like that. But then you've got
100%.
some kids that are just like silent, right, in class, or they don't say anything, and then something like this happens and you're like, hey, how are you doing? And they just like burst into tears. And
Yeah.
because this is crazy, and this produces so much anxiety and fear because nobody knows, right? And this thing, until it hits you, is invisible, and that is super scary.
Yeah.
And I was just reading over the response. I mean, I was reading those responses the other day and just thinking about like, oh my god, like 70's the new zero, right? Like one thing you're not going to worry about is passing my class, because
right.
how could I, you know, I'm not going to hold your feet to the academic fire when the world is literally on fire around us, right? Like what's that going to teach you, right? Like what are you going to learn about yourself and about me if I take that approach? It's just not fair for kids. And I don't know. I've already drafted an email to the district that my kids go to as a response. So just waiting, I'm just sitting on it, you know. Just wait to click send.
dot those T's, cross those I's.
Oh, yeah.
But I think everything you said is completely valid. and it's sobering because I think for a lot of people, that rush to normalcy is ignoring the situation that we're all in, because I mean, we're in the positions that we're in, you know, because we're 20, 10, 20, whatever, however many years ahead of the game, right? But we're all in this situation the same way. Like we're all in this together. Like we're all trying to do the best that we can. And it's like for us, like you said, to not apply that grace to kids right now and to not say, hey, you know, I understand, just talk to me, work with me, we'll put it together, and instead say, well, you're going to learn how to be successful because like, dude, like seriously, this is not the time for that. Like there, I mean, I don't even want to think about it, the possibility of losing a kid. You know what I mean? Like that's the position that we're in. And I don't think enough people are really just kind of like being aware of that and just accepting that and just working within that kind of mindset, because I mean this is really where we're at, you know. And we need to do that. I mean, and here's the thing, in my opinion, you learn grit through kindness. Like you learn how to be tough by being a little bit kind to yourself and saying, all right, I screwed that up, I'm gonna try it again. All right, I screwed that up, I'm gonna try it again. All right, I screwed this up, I'm gonna try it again. Like people get tough through selfless acts and through pushing through, not because somebody's beating on them and saying, hey, you're doing it wrong, or you're doing it this, or you're doing like that's not how we develop tolerance and grit. Like grit is through kindness and courage, and developing that courage through that kindness.
I mean, I think that what you're talking, I think that there's different forms of toughness, right? And I think that society, rewards certain kinds over others. And
that's true.
Like I think about like our young men, right? Like I think about boys. I think about like, well, what does it mean to be a man, right? Like, what do my kids think it means to be a man, right? And like, not just my students, but also my children, right? Like, if like they're gonna know what I believe about manhood by observing what I do, right? And what I don't do.
100%.
Right. And so a lot of times I think that, there's some, I don't know how well it's been researched, because like, how do you quantify grit? There's actually a really good YouTube video about it. You might have seen it. I forget who the presenter was, but
I think I know what you're trying to talk about. The lady.
Yes. Yeah. And just the idea that that people learn about themselves and who they are by primarily watching the examples around them and or observing the absence of examples around them, right? Like we become who we are because we've seen people who behave in ways that we want to emulate, right? Or we become who we are because we're surrounded by examples of people that we know have done it wrong. And we're trying to think of like what they're going to do and then do the opposite. Right. And so, and I think that what you're talking about with grit being built through kindness, I'd even add to that like grit is a combination of a person's personal like confidence and pride, but humility,
Mm,
compassion, and bravery, right? Like their courage,
right.
right? Like, because to say, oh, I screwed that up, I'm going to do it again, or I'm going to do it differently. I mean, it takes a certain level of humility to like keep trying after you continue failing. And it takes a certain level of, kind of facing the fear of potentially failing again and still being willing to try something else, right? And
Right.
I think that, it's a four-letter word. It's a positive four-letter word. Grit rhymes with another four-letter word, but I think that it encompasses so much, that's, I mean, it's really hard to encourage that in people, like that's like, I mean, I have two sons, and one seems totally unaffected by failure, doesn't care, doesn't maybe even know that it exists. I mean, he's just living for experience.
Right, right.
And my other son is mortified of failure, like paralyzed by just the thought that something could go wrong. And I mean, they both have different strengths, they've both got different weaknesses, but it's like, it's really interesting to watch how, the same circumstance for each of them and their two very different mindsets bring out different responses and bring
Mm,
out different motivations, and or they're motivated by different things. And so, I find that it's I mean, my family is just a case study waiting to happen. But because I've got a lot more than just that. But um I wonder, in what ways could I, as an educator, like what, I mean, just like even as a father, like if I can figure this out as a father, oh, it's going to be super easy to transition this to like a classroom, right? Like the fatherhood part's hard, right? Because they're always going to be there.
oh yeah.
The the classroom part's easier for me because I can be like, oh well, I screwed this year up. I'll just clean slate next year, right? And like, how do we encourage, students and their abilities to like stick with things that are difficult, right? And what I've started telling my kids, both my kids at school and my kids at home, is like, when they say, Mr. Clarke, this is really hard, and I say, I know, but we can do hard things, and they're like,
Mm,
huh, okay, okay, we can, okay. And just watching them try again, watching them, um, try to be or do or attempt stuff that they were initially, afraid of or worried about, is, I don't know, it's why I love being a teacher, to watch mindsets and perspectives change.
love it.
And I have very little control over that, whether or not they do change. But I think the point a lot of times is just to offer a new perspective, and to show them something that they hadn't seen or heard before, and then they get to make those choices themselves.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I mean, all you can really do is, like you said, import that mindset, show it to them, expose them to it, create create an environment where they feel at least somewhat comfortable in, and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I know you've never tried it this way, but look at it this way. I know you've never tried that, but look at it that way. I know you've never done this, but look at it this way. Like that's all you can actually do. All you can do
Right.
is do that. And hopefully if the relationship is right, something awesome will come out of it, and they'll try something new, and they'll push forward. I mean, I honestly think, given the circumstances, that's really all we need to be doing, honestly.
Yeah.
Just, you know, because I mean, I know we haven't started. That's why this is I think that's why it's such a fascinating conversation right now, because, you know, we're not there yet, but I think we're going into this tomorrow with the right mindset, because, you know, it's just not about the grades right now, man. It's just not.
It's not.
It's that's not what this is about.
70s are the new zero.
I love it.
I mean, I don't know. There's just so much that's like weighing on me. You know, there's just so much
what's
that's
weighing on
me.
you? Tell me, what's weighing on you?
You had to ask me that after I had another beer.
Okay. That's why I'm like, ooh, he opened up another one.
Truth serum
comes out. The truth serum.
You know, like I worry about so my wife and I, we were foster parents for 9 years. That's how all of our kids came to us, was through foster care. And we, in the 9 years that we did that, you know, we adopted 4, but we had 13, you know, children that we fostered.
Wow.
And I see so much on social media about, like, you know, this extra time is a gift, you know, use this time to connect with your family in ways that you have never before. Here's a COVID-19, you know, daily creative schedule. You know? Here's what Pinterest is doing with COVID, you know?
Right.
And one of the most sobering things that I think of during this time is that about 2/3 of cases of child abuse and neglect are reported by non-medical professionals.
Oh.
Teachers are
Serious?
responsible for over 40% alone. Teachers and school administrators are responsible alone for over 40% of CPS reports. Right?
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
What I think about is that those reports exponentially go up in September, January, and March. Because when the kids are at home, parents aren't reporting. You know, when the kids go back to school, they're, you know, the teachers and the school administrators and the counselors and the nurses make the reports.
Oh my gosh.
Hey,
that's
shit.
like,
all right. Hey, look.
Babe, the boys were on.
Hey, man. Hey, this is my friend Juan Campos. He's recording a FaceTime call for teachers. Look at all this FaceTime that's happening around the nation. This is crazy.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I know, with his good looks.
Holy cow.
Rachel's talking to a bunch of families. Rachel's talking to a bunch of families who also have kids with Angelman syndrome.
Right.
They're called the BAMs, the badass moms. So she's on a BAM's Facebook conference call right now.
No, I think that's
COVID
awesome.
conference call. Yeah.
Well, okay,
Community.
so talk about we'll talk about your daughter too with Angelman syndrome and what that's about.
Let me finish what I was saying before.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry. My bad.
Sorry to keep you in line, right? But we're gonna go. we're gonna go by the schedule.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clarke. I'm sorry.
But like, it's okay. I give you a 70.
I got a 70.
The thing that really weighs heavily on me is that so many of our kids don't have good home lives. Trauma is the absence of good or the presence of bad. Okay? So trauma is the absence of good or the presence of bad. Here's how that looks: neglect or abuse. Okay? Absence of good would be neglect, presence of bad would be abuse. Right? So like the thing that weighs heavily on me is like you want me to really want me to stick to my education guns right now, while kids are worried about so much more than this, and I mean, I just don't think that we can fathom I think there's zero way to predict how we're all going to be different after this is over. Zero.
Oh yeah.
I have no idea. How's this going to change education? How's this going to change social policies? How's this going to change our voting system? How's it going to change like all of these systems? How's this going to change our justice system? Right? Like, I think about like, the ways in which this is weighing heavily on me are, things like that. Things like students dealing literally in some cases with survival.
Yeah.
And so, and I just, I don't know. I think about like food insecurity, right? Like if I had to, I could walk to 3 grocery stores where I live, right? But if our kids can't, or like if our district wasn't providing meals, like I think about that. Like I think about like the lengths that people are willing to go to when they're desperate.
Wow.
Right? And this pandemic is, I think, going to create some desperation for a lot of people, because if they don't halt evictions, right? If everything in the economy like continues without any sort of like buffer or any sort of like pressure release valve, I think that this whole situation could go sideways real fast, right? For a lot of people and a lot of our kids, right? I worry about the Friday before spring break. I played in the faculty student basketball game.
Right.
We won, of course, as we do, because we cheat. But I was going back to my room to get my stuff, and one of my students is standing in front of my door sobbing. And I'm like, what's going on? What's wrong? And she's like, one of my friends said that he's ready to commit suicide. And so I was like, okay, we're going to deal with this. Let's go to the counselor. Went to the counselor. Counselor called the SRO, comes in. She has screenshots on her phone. Like it's, everybody's like wanting to do everything that they can to help this kid who's claimed that he's a danger to himself. Like everybody, like drops what they're doing. Yeah, it's Friday. Yeah, it's before spring break. What can we do? Like, what can we do now? What's the plan? Come up with a plan, and like that kid is on an indefinite break right now.
Yeah.
Like what's going to happen when people are so desperate that they believe that there's an alternative to moving forward that they'd rather take.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had 4 this year already tell me that either they were worried about one of their friends taking their lives. And so, I mean, those things are heavy. Those things are really, really hard because I have no control. And my kids have no control over their friends' actions. And it's scary. It's real scary. Because the other thing I think about, I mean, you asked me, and I got another one, so it's about to go dark.
I did ask for this. I did.
Well, I have this philosophy that if you ask for it, I have to give it to you. So, I think about like funerals. If everybody's quarantined, if there's no gatherings of 10 or more people, if like, what if one of our kids or one of our family members or one of our teachers catches this and doesn't beat it? Like, I don't know. I think probably one of the greatest tragedies on earth would be a funeral where nobody shows up. And I mean, I think there's a bit of a paradox there, since the person who died isn't really there either. But I mean, that's I mean, when I worry about why this is heavy and why I'm not concerned about like maintaining like rigorous academic instruction, remotely, I mean, those are the things, I mean, that's why, like, those are the things that prevent me from worrying about stupid stuff, right? Because those are the bumpers in my lane that keep my perspective, focused in a very graceful and patient direction.
I love that. Graceful and patient, which is truly what we all need right now. We need to be patient. We need to be patient. We need to apply grace, and we need to just be like, hey, there's only so much we can do. But do that, right? Don't ignore your responsibilities. Do what you can do, but at the same time, like, give yourself that grace and give yourself that patience, and give other people patience, and give other people that time that they might need, whatever it is. Like, let's just everybody just, especially as teachers, because let's just take it easy for a little bit, just for a little bit, just to see this thing through, man. Just like, there's no rush, because we don't even know where the finish line is. We don't even know where we're going. We have no idea where we're headed. But at least we're gonna get there by being patient and chilling out a little bit.
Yeah.
Good, man. That's good stuff.
All right, what's next?
I don't know. You tell me. Because you told me you were running out of time, so I don't know. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
I'm good. My time was dependent upon the other FaceTime.
I get some more Clarke time. Yay! So okay, so let me ask you this. Okay. What is your focus gonna be this week? Like this is week 1. I'm hoping that we do this every week. So week 1, we're starting online or learning tomorrow. What's the game plan? What's your mindset? Where are you at? Where are you going to? Like what are your goals? What do you think is gonna happen? Or what do you want to see happen?
Okay. That's a lot of questions. I'm gonna
I
start with the one that I can remember.
I was gonna say,
Mr. Campos?
Yeah.
Mr. Campos? What did you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you repeat that? Which question do you want me to answer? So, like, goal for this week. What I'm doing. My only goal this week is to connect with the kids. That's it, right? Like, I want to see their beautiful, adorable faces on a Google Meets or on a Zoom or like something. I want to get an email. I want them to fill out a Google form. Like, I just want to touch base with my kids this week.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's it. So I'll be available my kids know I've posted in Google Classroom. I mean, I've been posting in Google Classroom this whole time, even though they've told us no assignments in Google Classroom. I've followed that because I'm not about to blow my kids up with assignments because I can't spend a ton of time grading.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, with a lot of the stuff that I have students do, I'm probably just going to ask them or give them like a very loose rubric and have them evaluate it for themselves and just tell me what grade they think they deserve on it and give me a very broad justification for it, and they'll probably get that grade. And the kids who don't do that are just going to have the luxury of receiving a 0 preceded by a 7. Because 70 is the new 0. But like, my whole, like, I just want to check on my kids. Like, that's it. Like, I just want to check on my kids.
I feel the same.
I mean, it's probably good that we're quarantined, because if we weren't, I'd probably just hug them all when I saw them. So like for me, like, I've been keeping them up to date with, like, here's how AP is handling this now. Here's what the district is saying. Here's what, our approach is going to be. Here's what we talked about in our staff meeting. Like, I've tried to just like kind of keep connected to them, just with like, because I feel like people do really well. I feel like people do their best when they know what they're facing, right? And so this is a really scary time because we don't know what we're facing, right? And so I've been trying to keep them in the loop as far as, hey, here's my plan. I've made a couple of YouTube videos and put it on my district channel. So, just to make sure that they know that, number one, I'm thinking about them. And number two, we have a plan. And number three, we're going to connect and address that plan together. I'm not trying to add to anybody's burden. I'm not trying to add to anybody's, anxiety. So that's my goal this week. My I guess, kind of co-teacher, Dr. Bland, you know her.
Yeah.
Dude, she's incredible. But this whole thing is putting her at an even greater disadvantage
Oh,
because
God.
she doesn't know, like she can't use the same technology because of her disability. And so I think I'm probably going to break the Dallas quarantine order at some point this week and go meet with her, and see what see if I can figure out if her accessibility software, as a result of her blindness, she's blind, for anybody besides you and me who ever watched this, um, um, who, like, that she would be able to post videos. Like, I want to see if she could do a video and post it to a YouTube channel for her kids, or something like that, and see if there's some way that we can make her more connected right now, since she's even less connected than everybody else. So that's another kind of goal that I have for this week. So yeah, I mean, it's like I have zero expectations, right? Like, none, zero.
But
Like,
that's good.
you take that bar and you just a little lower, yep. Is it on the ground yet? Yeah, it's on the ground. Just put it down. Just put down the bar. Like, I have zero expectations. So anything that happens, like, if I could, like, if I have this expectation that, like, well, I have 140 students. Well, I'm going to see all 140 of my students tomorrow between the hours of like 12 and 1, right? And then 3 show up electronically. I'll be like, oh, this is so disappointing. But if I just say, hey, there's a possibility that, like, none of my kids are going to show up during my office hours tomorrow, and 3 show up, that's what, like 300%?
Easily.
Yeah, that's great.
Easily.
Oh, I'm a math person. So I think that means that would be 300% of my kids.
At least.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I just, my plan for this week is to survive. Is to maybe check the boxes that our campus and district are asking us to check, and connect with the kids. Absolutely. And that's pretty much it. What about you?
That's everything you said, pretty much. I'm only focused on connecting with my kids. I left them a few video messages, kind of like, hey, I'm checking in on everybody, seeing how everybody's doing. I've been kind of keeping them up to date with everything that's been going on. Yeah. But no, I miss them. Just like you said, I miss them. I want to just hold them. I just want to check them, make sure they're okay. Make feed, do the dad move with the fever. Like, you okay? Sore throat? Okay, you're good. All right, next. Have them in an assembly line. Make sure that they're all okay. I knew I was gonna miss them, but I didn't realize how much I miss them. Like, I feel very strongly that tomorrow is gonna be a very a very emotional day for me, because I just
What's your plan tomorrow? What are you doing?
Tomorrow I'm just gonna be at my Google Hangout. I have a Google form, kind of like what you said. Where you at? Do you have Wi-Fi? What are your responsibilities? Is there any special need you might need from me? That kind of stuff. Because actually, look, as we're talking, one of my kids just sent me a message, hey, I won't be able to be at the Google Hangouts because the free Wi-Fi isn't available to me. Like stuff like that, man. We're not even, we don't even know what we're walking into,
Yeah.
Like we gotta just take it little by little, step by step,
Yeah.
Hang in there.
That's it. All right, ask me another question. I still got time. That other FaceTime call is still going on.
All right. Well, you ask me a question. Come on, this is a conversation. You tell, what do you want to ask me? You ask me something. Right. Let's.
All right. During this time, which is trying for all of us, like as a teacher, what's the source of your hope?
Wow. I feel like as a teacher, my source of hope is coming from my understanding of how the biology of kind of like all this, you know what I mean? Like kind of like how this all works. So for me, my hope is basically coming from the fact that I know that it's human behavior that got us into this. It's human behavior that put us in this situation, but it's also going to be human behavior that's going to get us out of it. So the first human behavior that I can do anything about is mine, right? And there's only so much that I can do. So with that being said, as long as I can do what I can do to the best of my abilities, that's going to be enough. And as long as I know that I'm doing everything I can and I know I'm doing enough, then that means I can do enough for everybody else and for my kids. And if my students see that I'm doing everything I can for them, hopefully that'll translate, give them some hope, and just push forward. Because I just, it's messy and it's messed up, and I could point fingers all day, but at the end of the day, there is going to be a point where everybody's kind of gonna get it together, and we're gonna overcome this. But until that day comes, I got to do what I got to do for me, for you, for everybody. Because as long as I'm taking care of myself, and as long as I'm doing what I can for myself and for my family, that means I'm taking care of you, And then when you do that, you taking care of you, then you take care of everybody else. And that's how this thing is going to play out. Yep. I mean, that's how it plays out. But it's just going to take a little bit for everybody to get on board, And I just really hope that while that process is happening, as little people as possible get sick and affected by it. But that's my hope. My hope is just knowing that I got kids I got to take care of. I got my kids that I got to take care of. You got your kids that we got to take care of. And as long as we're all doing our part, we'll get by. We'll get through this somehow, some way. We will. I know we will. I just know it. We just got to take care of each other and ourselves.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, thanks.
That's really important.
It is. No, it is. It is. It is for everybody's sake. All right, Matt Clarke,
Juan Campos.
the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you so much for that.
Appreciate it, man.
No, thank you. No, this was awesome.
Yeah,
and I
agree.
Until next time. until
will be next time.
Same bat chime, same bat channel.
Okay.
All right, we'll take care.
Sounds good.